You're watching Insurance Innovators, Fraud and Claims. We're about to kick off with our first panel, the theme of which is Chatbots, Transforming Operations and Customer Experience. We're going to be looking at everything from new customer communication channels, hybrid workforces, and proactive chatbots. It's a big subject. I can't do it alone, which is why I'm going to tackle it with the help of a panel, the first member of which is Harold. Harold, hi, it's good to see you. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, Tracy. Good to see you as well. So my name is Harold Felgner. I'm part of a UX innovation team in AXA Switzerland, which is part of the AXA group. So our team's name is IMS. The acronym has stayed a constant over the last years. So 10 years ago, it was individual and mobile solutions. And today it is interaction and multi-experience solutions as chats, messages, chats with chat humans, as well as chatbots become more and more important for insurance as well. I'm sitting in Ermatingen in Switzerland, and hello to everybody.
Okay, it's great to see you, Harold. Let's move on now to our next panelist, Arunima. Tell me about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Arunima Gautam. I work with Quantify. Quantify is an AI, ML, and data solutions company, helped customers with their digital transformation journey. And today we are here to talk about chatbots. Very pleased to meet the panelists and looking forward to an interesting conversation.
Fantastic. Now, I believe that the sound connection has been restored to you. Tobias, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Fantastic.
So my name is Tobias. So I hope all the technical issues are now fixed.
Yeah, that's fine. We can hear you.
I've good. So I have a long, more than 30 years history of working in the insurance business, and I stayed nearly 19 years with Zurich Insurance, where I ran the Smart Home Innovation Lab, concentrating on all IoT stuff and what are the effects on our customers and on our business. And now I'm working as an independent advisor together with startups and bringing cross-industry partners together. And and big part of my work was also to care about chatbots, and I'm happy to give some insights here in the next couple of minutes.
Okay, that's fantastic. And thank you all so much for being here. I know you're very busy people, so it really is a privilege to have your time. So look, there is plenty to get through. I think you got a sense of that from what our panel does, their areas of expertise. But don't forget as well that we want you to get involved. So if there are any questions or you want to respond to a particular point that the panel or an individual panelist may have made, then please do feel free to give us your response via the live Q&A field on the screen, and we'll try to handle as many of your questions or observations as we can in the time available. So let's start by looking at why chatbots are becoming a key component in customer brand interactions and how they can apply to insurance. So Tobias, let me start first with you. Where are chatbots currently deployed in the insurance zone, and how successful do you think they have been?
Yeah, so chatbots in insurance is a big field, and it's it increased in the last years. In a very good and high way. And looking to the European insurance industry, I see that there are two areas where chatbots are currently used. So the relatively easy ones are helping customers with standard requests and in the customer service area. So for example, they are used to give advice which documents are needed for certain requests, especially for claims, which is our topic here now. And this really helps to increase waiting times in hotlines, and well-trained customers agents can concentrate on the real difficult topics. And these bots are mainly created as text bots answering to email or WhatsApp requests. So very low level, but very efficient. Okay. And secondly, there are more the complex ones, which are really, I would say, AI-based. So they can give like a robot advice to people interested in an insurance. So they help with complex algorithms to identify customer needs and deliver an advice, ideally linked direct to sales. That is a very smooth process. And that these are a bit more complex to create, the use is still under evaluation, but I will increase. I'm convinced.
Sure. But I mean, you've given us a very good overview there about how they're applied and what they're achieving, which is very good because it leads on to the next question, which I want to put to Harold, because look, COVID-19 has been impacting every area of business life. So to what extent has the pandemic actually speeded up the investment that we're seeing in chatbot technology?
So let me answer it honestly. So COVID has increased investment a lot, but not primarily into chatbots. To be honest, in Switzerland, insurance is still sold and many people make their claims via people. So, and our whole sales force was somehow in the situation that they could no longer visit their customers, our customers. So the top investment, of course, was making it possible for those sales people doing their job from home, which is what we are doing right here, making it possible for them to advise concerning or using Zoom calls and the like. But as you mentioned it, chatbots, of course, are also in the at the intersection between personal as well as digital customer interactions. So chatbots have a huge potential of offering a digital means of interaction with customers that is, on the other hand, very near to the personal interaction of customers. So, of course, it also made a push for our business in chatbots. The whole situation that everyone was at home, that operations people were overwhelmed by COVID cases, of course. So many travel insurances were canceled. Many legal insurance claims were made. And it gave an overall push concerning all things digital within AXA as well.
Okay, so that was one of the side effects, a positive side effect of COVID-19. But Arunima, I want to bring you into the conversation. And in many respects, this question really touches on what we heard in the keynote address. And this is the communication between the insurance company and the customer. So to what extent can chatbot communication channels lead to that higher level of customer engagement and ultimately brand affinity? Because as we saw from or heard from the Zurich experience, there was an assumption that they were doing a great job, and the customers overall said, well, yes, we agree with that, but here are the 9 key areas where we're not so sure.
Sure. So to answer this question, Juliet, let me go back to the genesis of the insurance business industry. The idea on which this business was set up was that there will be speed and there'll be empathy at the time of need for a customer. Now, having spoken about that, there are chatbots and voice bots that can play a very important and pivotal role in maintaining this empathy and speed with the customer. Let me give you an example. Say Bob one day meets with an accident, he dinged his car. He quickly wants to call his insurer. He wants to communicate to them their sentiment, and he wants to make sure that he's being heard. In that case, he will not be able to wait for the standard wait time of, the typical just human-led call centers that we are seeing in the industry right now. He wants to quickly get in touch with someone, and he wants to communicate his sentiment there so that someone can empathize with him. Now he needs a human touch here. How do you enable that? Chatbots until now were mature in terms of talking about FAQs. They can route your customers to the right location. But with conversational AI, you can understand the intent and the sentiment of the person who is on the other line of the phone. Understanding their sentiment, you can route their call to the right kind of agent, to the right kind of portal, etc. So I genuinely feel that these communication channels using chatbots and voice bots will be able to justify the basic principle of the industry, that is speed and empathy.
Okay, that's a really interesting point as well, and hopefully something we'll get the chance to address a little bit later in our conversation. But bringing it back to you, Tobias, I mean, look, Arunima actually outlined a great scenario, how the two things can work well, the chatbot interacting with customer, vice versa. But how open are customers generally to interacting with chatbots? They're talking to a machine, and that often scares people. But clearly, as Arunima pointed out, if it's done properly, it can work very well.
I think, and I see that customers are very open to interact with chatbots. I see a high acceptance by customers, and in most of these cases, customers do not realize that they are chatting, for example, via WhatsApp with the chatbot. So, and in many cases, customers told us that they don't care to chat with a real person or a bot as long as they get a quick and valuable answer to their requests. But then there's always a but. We got also feedback that people do not really trust a bot as they fear that they are recorded and someone will misuse these customer data. But I think this will change in the next years when people get more and more used with these instruments. And I'm convinced that in the near future, people get the bots will be accepted as Alexa is now accepted at home as well. And I'd like to point out that I say interact and not speak to a bot, because there's a big difference. And if you think of all the virtual assistants like Alexa, people use them more for convenience in their home, but still not really to interact with your bank or insurance, as these are still very critical or personal topics. So I think we have to differentiate between a voice bot and a chat bot.
Sure. Interesting point. And Harold, let me bring you into the conversation, because I guess the question coming out of what we just heard from Tobias is whether chatbots are rightly suited for the claims journey. The inference being from what we've heard so far is that, yeah, it's a no-brainer not to have them in that journey.
Definitely. It's a no-brainer. It's just, as Tobias said, customers are not yet used to really talk to chatbots or even to chat with insurances or other industries, at least in Europe. So coming back to your question, is it suited for the claims journey? Yes, definitely. But it's also suited for the information as well as for the sales journey. Keep in mind that insurance is a very specific business. Working in insurance, you no longer realize that the product we are selling is a very strange product indeed. Whereas for normal product or service purchases, you have an immediate post-purchase satisfaction or dissatisfaction. There's no such thing in insurance. What you buy is a promise. Is a promise that you can sleep at night. You receive maybe a paper document or no longer. So after purchase, you have nothing in your hands until that very first, most important servicing moment in insurance, which is that claim that might happen years later. And so servicing and insurance, making a claim, can be a positive or a negative moment for you as a customer. So you notice 10 years or 5 years after purchase that you have bought the right coverage or not. So many questions come up during a claims journey, and chatbots are highly suited at answering your questions maybe before even filing a claim. So most of the people, of our customers, call because they want to know, is it covered? What happens if I file a claim? Will my insurance premium rise? And so on. And coming from a digital experience, chatbots are definitely the most humane of experiences in terms of they can ask you back or give answers before taking that claim.
Okay, then, so some interesting thoughts there. And I want to move the discussion on now. But before I do, a reminder as well to our online audience, please do feel free to respond to what you have heard so far. Give us your questions. You know how to do it. We are really keen to hear from you. Okay, so let's put the focus on designing and implementing chatbots. It is not an easy task. So the big question, of course, for the experts is in the area of best practices. And Tobias, let me bring you into the conversation, because what do you see as the best ways in which insurers can approach a chatbot strategy? Because look, we have to accept the fact that they are now a fixed feature of the insurance landscape.
Yes, so looking to other industries, how chatbots are used and try to copy. So this is yes, you're smiling, but that's in most of the cases.
Imitation is the highest form of flattery.
Yeah. So what works for others, why shouldn't it work for you? And you can learn and test very, very quickly. So it's a pretty easy way. And then additionally start to implement your own bots in different areas. So maybe as an insurer, maybe in sales, and look how customers will react. And then maybe in a very easy claims journey that you can improve your services and look how your customers will react. What is the customer feedback? And maybe if you do it in sales, do you have an efficiency increase or sales numbers increase? Then it's a sign that your bot would work or doesn't work, and then you can adjust it.
Okay.
And there are also real services you can create with a bot, like in sales, scheduling a meeting with your agent. So it's very time consuming for both sides. And if there is a bot interface in between, it helps everyone. So you need little tricky things to implement, and then you can create your own bot strategy. I think that's a good and easy and cheap way, because always you have to show, if you create these bots internally, you have to show success, and don't start with the most complex one.
Sure.
Start with the easy ones.
So keep it simple
and implement several ones.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Let me move it on now, because
absolutely.
Sorry to jump in. I want to bring Arunima into the conversation. I'm also conscious of the fact that time is fairly tight. But Arunima, I mean, look, when you talk about bots and when you talk about the future and how you can have that interaction with customers, I mean, look, it always comes back to AI. So when can we expect conversational AI to be at the right point of maturity so that it becomes mainstream? I think that it was Tobias who made the point that you want to interact, not speak to your bot.
Yeah, sure, Juliet. So I would say the time is right now. It's today. These bots, conversational AI, has been mature in the market for quite some time now. One thing that you need to understand is, in adoption of these bots, what kind of approach you're taking. Are you taking an outside-in approach or inside-out approach? Well, both approaches should be equally balanced out, right? Outside-in approach is where you try to understand, is my customer even ready to move to a chat platform, right? For example, Generation Y has been brought up with chatting platforms. They use WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. It's very easy for them to gravitate towards chat platforms. While, the previous generations, they are used to walking to like an agent office. They are used to picking up a phone and calling. So these aspects both should be equally balanced in terms of making a decision, which route do you want to go. Now, talking about maturity, we have real world examples where, this has been done at a very mature scale and has seen a lot of traction. Let me give you an example. When COVID-19 hit, Quantify deployed a solution for the state of Illinois. We developed a 24/7 service on the IDES Illinois website to provide immediate assistance to filers with the frequently asked questions. You will not believe this, Juliet, but the governor went on stage to say this. There were 3.2 million inquiries in the first 2 weeks of going live. That is the kind of impacts chatbots and voice bots are making today. And if the question is about maturity, then they are mature. It's just a matter of how do you rightly plan and implement them.
Okay, that's pretty head spinning, that figure. And given that, Harold, what can insurers do to make sure that the human element remains in that chatbot conversation, especially when you've got a claims journey, and because of the nature of that claims, it may be quite complicated?
That's absolutely true. So there's two points to this answer. So the easier one is keep the human as close as possible. So there's still employees in the organization, and make it possible to get a smooth handoff directly from the chatbot to employees, to insurance advisors. So let her say, sorry, I don't know, but I can hand you off directly to a colleague and hand him off the whole conversation that took place, so that the customer does not have to repeat what he already said, and handle that employee the chat for the chatbot. I mean, that's not only a workaround, it's a feature, because you have so many cases that cannot be programmed into chatbots as of today. But then on the other hand, of course, you have to develop a chatbot personality that can transport that empathy and feeling more humane than any other digital experience. And that's the really challenging part. I think of Switzerland, for example. We have 4 country languages. We support 3 of them. That's Italian, French, and German. And we support English as well for expats. And building a personality in the speech, language, and understanding into a chatbot in those languages, it's quite a challenge. But if not with chatbots, with what then?
Well, I'm not even going to attempt to answer that question. You guys are the experts, so I'll leave that to you if you don't mind. But Arunima, I mean, what opportunity does voice technology offer to take those AI-powered conversations to the next level? Because as Harold brilliantly pointed out there, you can have all this stuff, but then when you're dealing with a territory which has multiple languages, so there are the nuances, the cultures associated with it, it's not going to be easy. And how will customers and insurers themselves benefit during that claims process?
Sure. So I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir when I say when the moment of truth occurs, you would want to pick up your phone and call someone instead of trying to chat or text. Having said that, voice bots are going to have a significant role in this industry to play. How you can start is you can start at looking at your internal systems, are the information that your agents are collecting, right? Your FNOL process. Can a voice bot be deployed in your system that can engage with the customer in such a way that your customer forgets the boundary between talking to a human versus talking to a bot? You can use this initially collected information to pass it on to an agent, to what Harold said, right? Who can make a more human conversation with your customer without having to repeat the redundant information that the customer has already given. The voice bot can generate a claim number for you. It can get your customer on a call as fast as possible. So having said this, if we are able to apply voice bot in the initial redundant repetitive work that the humans are doing today so that their time can be routed to more important, more intelligent work, then we are going back to my initial point. We are bringing speed to our business and we are equally bringing empathy to our customers.
Okay, then, great answer. What we're now going to do is to move on to the questions which have come through from our audience. So remember, it's not too late to put a question to the panel. I think they're primed and ready to handle whatever it is that you throw at them. Don't forget to submit your questions using the live Q&A field on your screen. Let's take this one. And the person who sent it is anonymous. So whoever you are, thank you. What are the panel's thoughts on voice-driven conversational AI? Too futuristic? Or can it be applied in insurance today? Well, I think we touched on that, but I mean, is it a bit too futuristic, perhaps a bit too creepy for some people to wrap their heads around? I mean, what is the response of the panel to that? Who'd like to take it? Would you like to go with that one, Arunima?
Sure. So one thing we need to understand is the purpose of conversational AI is not to replace the human-driven call centers. It's rather to complement them. What we need to understand is that the insurance business is growing. Insurers are coming up with so many creative suite of products. Our customer has so many options in the market. They do so much online search, figure out which product they want to go with, etc. So if that is the state today, imagine where we will be 10 years down the line. To that scale, where you need to keep the customer experience seamless, how do you make that happen? You make that happen by strengthening your current workforce and you complement them with a conversational AI that can take care of the redundant tasks for them. Eventually, you are being able to accentuate your customer experience. They are more than happy to continuously engage with you. And it's always you are attracting even more customers because of word of mouth, etc. So I think the real point is they are not here to replace the humans, but to give our customer the experience of talking to a human in a fast way.
Okay, then. I mean, Harold, I saw you nodding your head vigorously. So can I get your follow-up to that and then also bring in Tobias?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I would add in terms of capability, technical capability, way too futuristic for at least Switzerland. So I mentioned the 4 languages we support, but then think of 70% speaking that German. And now we are talking about voice bots. So 70% of Switzerland population talks German in, I would say, 20 to 30 different dialects, which are completely different. And getting that, I mean, they are used to Germans answering, and then they switch to a High German. So if the chatbot answers in High German, they will switch to a different language, and somehow, and building that empathy is very, very difficult. So voice bots are even more a challenge than text bots, at least in Switzerland, from that standpoint only.
Sure. I mean, I didn't realize there were so many complexities to the German language. So thank you so much for enlightening me on that. And Tobias.
Yeah, so I try to do it in high English and not with an accent. So yeah, I'm totally agree with Arun, because it will never replace a human being. So imagine the situation that you have a car crash somewhere on the motorway, and this is a hopefully totally unusual situation for you. And what are you doing? You can call your mom. Yeah, might work, or you can call your insurer, and so you, in this situation, you won't download an app, you won't do it via WhatsApp, you won't talk to a chatbot saying, "Oh, can you please repeat it? I didn't understand it," blah blah blah. No, you want to talk to a real person, accepting your emotional situation and acting in an emotional way to help you. And this is, if we talk about customer orientation, we can't never replace human beings in our customer service totally.
Okay. Right.
But what we can do is to help our internal people as well with some bots to do the internal processes. For example, for customer service agents, better that they can receive a second level help internally. So I think that's also a big point. We have to keep in mind where we can, so there are two ways to help our customers directly and to help our internal people as well.
Okay, look, sadly, time as ever the enemy, but guys, thank you so much. Tobias, brilliant high English. I've learned so much from our conversation, so thank you for that. Just I've learned a great deal about the German tongue, so thank you. It really has been a fascinating conversation, and we've had so many questions. This is how well you've engaged with the audience. We can't get through them, but we'll do the best we can throughout the day. But I mean, I want to bring in now our pundit, Tracy, because she's also been listening to this. I mean, Tracy, it touched on many of the points that we raised at the very beginning of our conversation. So I'd like you to just give me your thoughts. What were the key standout points from your perspective?
Yeah, a really, really interesting discussion. Really enjoyed it, first and foremost. I think one thing that came out is that I think it's where chatbots really play their part in, you know, my world is claims. And, you know, somebody has an accident and Tobias said, you know, it's a raised level of anxiety. They want to get on the phone. They want empathy. They want understanding. That's the moment of truth, and you build trust. But actually, you know, there's different parts of the claims journey where absolutely people, you know, that it isn't that same point and they want quick access. You know, we've spoken about, you know, speed of access and the right, and I think it's the right mode of communication and access point for a customer for the right inquiry. And I think a couple of other things that came out for me that was touched on is learning. And I think a really exciting thing about chatbots is that, you know, I don't know who it was who said, talked about continued learning and development. But I think what's really exciting from an improvement perspective is that 360 learning. It's actually what can we learn about, you know, and Ian touched on it earlier about data and insights. What can we learn about our own internal systems and our inadequacies? You know, we're getting multiple questions about the same thing, you know, and then you go back to, well, why are they asking the question in the first place? Because if we were clear enough, you know, and our processes were clear enough and our policies were clear enough, why would they need to ask that question? You know, what have we got wrong or what are we not clear about in the early parts of the claims journey in order to drive that question? So really, really interesting. I think what I also really liked was the point of, you know, a chatbot's ability to direct somebody to the right person. And I think that, you know, one thing that frustrates customers is continued handoffs. But how powerful could it be if actually, somebody goes through to a chatbot and that intelligently sort of articulates and picks up on cues to say, actually, you now need to go through to this person. It might be somebody who's got the right technical expertise, or it might actually be some, the chatbot's picked up on, I guess, cue words and emotional and tone of voice cues.
Sure.
You might need to direct to somebody, with the right soft skills, who really needs that human voice. And I think that's what's really, really exciting about all of this.
Absolutely, because there was this stress about the algorithms as well, how they can fulfill that function in terms of directing people. Tracy, I just want you to take on the question, if you're comfortable doing this. I would have loved to have shared it with the panel, but sadly, time ran out on us in that section. We've got about a minute together, but this came through from Mike Hyam, who's from Phronesis Technologies. The question that he was answering: what measures can be put in place to validate a claimant's credentials without adding friction and stress to an already stressful time for the person making the claim? So you touched on that to a certain extent. Would you like to expand on it in the time available, about 30 seconds?
So I think it's about, I think this is where what the customers are telling us is so important. So it's the right process for the right, the right element of the journey. But in terms of, basic credentials and how you can use AI, I think, what you don't want to do is create a steps in the journey. So you've got a certain step where we're using AI and then moving over to human voice. So I think you've got to listen to your customers. I think there is a point, and I think if it adds speed, and we talked about speed being really important and efficiency, if it adds that. But I think that this is technological development. And I think that we can put measures in place, we can put controls in place, but what we really need to listen to is our customers, because all too often you can put measures and controls in place, and it's actually quite dangerous, I think, in new technology. What we need to be able to do is listen to that feedback. Are we getting it right? And I think the proof of the pudding is, have we stopped another question coming in? So actually, if you get it right day one, and you manage expectations and you do all of that, you shouldn't actually really need anything downstream. I always think that's the proof in the pudding.
Okay, I'm going to jump in there because I have to close this part of the discussion, but thank you so much for taking on that question from Mike Hyam. Mike, thank you so much for sending it in, and thanks again to our excellent panelists for their contribution. We had a great, lively discussion, so much information thrown out there, and of course, you may want to follow it up. You can do that, of course, on the platform, because it allows you to connect with people, to talk to them, to pursue those points. And of course, you've got a terrific window, because we're coming up, in fact, for a 25-minute break. So you can use that break to grab yourself a cup of coffee, continue with the networking before part two. I think you're all very familiar with the drill by now. And don't forget that you can meet your fellow attendees on the event platform. To do that, head to the networking tab to kick off that conversation. Also, you might want to check out one of our sponsor hubs from the homepage. If you're interested in what Arunima had to say, she put so much information out there, really phenomenal stuff. Arunima, of course, is from Quantify, so please do go to the hub and connect with them, okay, because there is so much that they want to share with you. So go out there, make the best of this, and in the meantime, we'll see you after the break. See you in a bit.